Nature, when something unforeseen hinders its correct functioning for the purposes of the common cosmic trogo-autoegocrat, adapts itself so that its results should correspondingly blend with the harmony of this most great cosmic law. The said society of terrestrial beings, men, arose, as I've already told you, 6 or 7 centuries ago on the continent Asia, in a town then existing under the name of Mausolepolis. And it arose from the following cause. Just at that period, the processes I have mentioned were flowing particularly frequently on just that same continent. These processes occurred partly between different communities and partly within the limits of these communities themselves. And these latter processes afterwards came to be called civil wars. One of the chief causes of these terrible processes, which became frequent both between and within communities on the continent Asia, was, at that period, a religion, then only just formed, which had been fantastically founded on the teachings of a genuine messenger of our endlessness, Saint Mohammed. The foundation of the said society was then first laid by the brothers of the fraternity then existing in Central Asia under the name of the Assembly of the Enlightened. Here it must be noticed that in those days the brothers of this fraternity were beings who were very much venerated by other three-brained beings around them of almost the whole of that planet. And hence this brotherhood was sometimes also called the Assembly of all the living saints of the earth. This brotherhood of the three-brained terrestrial beings had already long before been formed of such beings who had also noticed in themselves the consequence of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer, and had banded together to work collectively for their deliverance from these properties. And so, when on their continent Asia these terrible processes of reciprocal destruction there became already too frequent, certain brothers of the said fraternity, with the most venerable brother, Olman Tabur, at their head, just decided for the first time to try whether it would not be possible to obtain by some means, if not the total abolition of this terrible phenomenon proceeding on their planet, at least the reduction of this crying evil. Having devoted themselves to the carrying out of this decision of theirs, they then began to visit various countries of the continent Asia, and everywhere very movingly preached the colossal criminality and sin of these actions of men, and in this way they found many people earnestly with them. And as a consequence of all their impartial and truly philanthropic labors, there was formed in the city Mausolepolis the mentioned large and serious society of men beings under the title, The Earth is Equally Free for All. Already quite from the beginning, the members of this society of men beings actualized to this end many things which no beings of the earth, either before or since, were able to actualize. And they were able to do this only because the program itself, from the very beginning, was very well drawn up in respect of its actualizability in the conditions existing there. Among other things, there entered into the fundamental program of this society gradually to act in such a direction as would enable them to obtain a result. In the first place, the actualization for all the beings of the continent Asia of one common religion, which they wished to base upon the teachings of the sect of what are called the Parsis, only changing it a little. Secondly, one common language. And for this common language, they wished to adopt what is called the Turkoman language, the oldest on the continent Asia, and one whose roots had already entered into very many Asiatic languages. And thirdly, there entered into the fundamental program of this society, finally, to bring about the organization in the center of Asia, namely, in the city Marjalan, the capital of what was called the Verganian Khanate, of a chief and basic government for all the countries of Asia under the name of the Council of Elders, the members of which had to be honorable beings from all the Asiatic communities. It had to be named so because only the oldest and the most deservedly honorable beings could participate in it. According to their understanding, only such beings of their planet are able to be impartial and just toward other beings of the earth, irrespective of to what religion or nationality they belong. Among the members of this society, then, in the city Mausoleopolis, there were already beings belonging to almost all the Asiatic communities. Among them were also those called Mongols, Arabs, Kyrgyzs, and Georgians, Little Russians and Tamils, and even the personal representatives of the then famous conqueror Tamerlane. Thanks to their intensive and indeed impartial and unselfish activities, those increasing wars and civil wars on the continent Asia began to diminish, and it was anticipated that many other good things might still be done for this same end. But something just then happened, which began the breakup also of this society of effective men beings of that unparalleled planet. And everything subsequent came about through the influence of a then very famous philosopher, Artanach, and his theory expounded by him in a treatise under the title, Why Do Wars Occur on Earth? When this philosopher made his appearance among the members of this society, all their notions were confounded. I know very well the history of this same philosopher, Artanach, also, because during my studies of ever the same consequences of the creations of the most saintly Ashiata Shiyamash, it became necessary for me to learn in detail about his activities also, and of course also about himself. This philosopher, Artanach, was born in that same city, Mausoleopolis, in a family of those who are called Kurds. He, on attaining responsible age, became for the planet Earth a very great learned being. In the very beginning, this same Kurd, Artanach, perseveringly studied during many Earth years every possible question, which it seemed to him might give him an answer to the question, what in general is the sense of man's existence? And during his study of these questions, it seems that by some means there fell into his hands a very ancient but well-preserved what is called Sumerian manuscript. This manuscript was well preserved because it had been inscribed on the skins of being snakes called Kalyanjesh, with the blood of the being Chirman. As my investigation made clear to me, the contents of this manuscript, inscribed by some ancient being, extremely interested the philosopher Artanach, who was particularly struck by that place of the manuscript where, as presupposed by this ancient learned being, it was said, in all probability there exists in the world some law of the reciprocal maintenance of everything existing.